leans towards you a little more. Okay, hello everyone. We got Carinta here from Global Currency Services.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I feel like a celebrity.
You are a celebrity. And for lots of reasons. We're going to get into it. This is episode 42.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're getting there. The goal's 100 for the year.
Oh my gosh.
We're well on our way.
That's awesome.
And so thank you for doing this.
No, thank you.
Yeah, we're jumping right into it. So
Right.
the whole idea to start with is just to give the audience a little bit of context around Carinta and like what you've been up to in your life over the last maybe 8 years, 10 years, and where you are today and what you're up to now.
Sure. 8 years, 10 years. Those are two funny numbers. Because I've been married for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
We just celebrated.
Congratulations.
Yay!
That's very good.
I know. It was fun. We went to New York for the weekend. It was awesome.
Like downtown?
Yes. We did some shows. We did some comedy. It was a good time.
Beauty.
And
Pizza?
Pizza? No. I'm low carbing it.
Yeah, oh, well done.
So, no. That was tempting, but no.
Disciplined on vacation.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well played.
A little bit.
Okay.
And 8 years is how old my oldest daughter is. So I've been adulting and parenting and being married for that stretch of time.
And entrepreneuring.
And entrepreneuring, yes.
Wow, you're a busy lady.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Oh, yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah. So my business is 17 years old, so I feel like that's kind of beyond the scope of our 8 to 10 years, but...
If you want to go back to start it,
Sure.
wherever you want to start.
It's 17 years, so yeah, I've been doing that. I guess, yeah, I mean, that's a major part of life, right? You spend every day kind of doing it, so
Yeah.
that's there too.
Yeah. Whatever, details.
Yeah. I feel like I've done less businessing over the last 10 years just because of family. So
That's cool.
yeah, whereas the first 5 to 7 years I was dedicated. Like I dedicated almost every hour to the business and growing it and networking and meeting people and trying to kind of, make Guelph know global currency and vice versa. And then I had to make a decision to stop doing some of those extra things when I started to be an adult.
Right?
Yeah. So it was good though, because I feel like I planted a lot of seeds in the first 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been kind of weeding now. And now that my kids are getting a little bit older, now I'm starting to get the bug. Like I'm like, okay, I can start to get back into some of this. There's new things that I need to do and learn and connect with in Guelph. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with our audience, I think there's probably a lot of value in giving some insight around what that first kind of 5 years looked like. So in terms of, every hour dedicated to the business and planning the foundation or planting seeds and building a foundation to then give you an opportunity to grow something for the next, 10, 12 years.
Sure.
What kind of things were you up to?
I said yes to everything. So if I saw an opportunity to do a breakfast meeting or a lunch meeting or a dinner meeting, more breakfast and dinner than lunch because I wanted to be actually physically in my business during our operating hours. I was there. I was at every breakfast meeting I could go to and every dinner meeting I could go to, and that's how I met Guelph. That's how I figured out what Guelph was. When I decided to open my business and was trying to choose a city, Guelph looked great when I looked at numbers, but everyone that I spoke to said, "Oh my gosh, don't even think about Guelph because if you're not a Guelphite, they will not accept you."
Interesting.
Yeah, you will not do well in Guelph unless you are homegrown.
Right.
And I was from Kitchener, so I was like, well, that sucks. But it's still, every time I looked at it, I'm like, well, I can't ignore the fact that Guelph is right. If this picture of what I think a perfect city is correct, then Guelph is my perfect city. So I'm going to ignore the naysayers and I'm going to go there and I'm going to meet Guelph. And they lied.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Guelph is lovely. If you take the time to get out and meet them.
Yeah. That's interesting, Paul, and I did the exact same thing.
So where are you from?
Mississauga and Eastern Oshawa.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, I love how you went Mississauga, Oshawa. Paul, make sure you watch this one.
Oops. No. More like, oh, so far.
Yeah, but same thing. We found a remarkable embracing of our business model because of what you kind of said of getting out there, meeting people, and beating pavement and not going away.
Yes.
No empty promises, constant follow-up.
Yes.
Taking the time.
And opening yourself up. I think if you let people get to know you, then they'll they'll open up as well.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
So then, it's interesting. You mentioned this idea of saying yes to everything.
That's been like a pervasive kind of issue in my life.
Well, and I'm just curious now,
Yes.
17 years later, are you more on the I gotta find things to say no to side?
Me as a person, I'm a yes person. So my immediate instinct is always yes. And it's funny because if I look at business relationships or personal relationships, when I hear no, that's when I have a tantrum in my head. Like, don't say no. Like, if I'm asking you a question, then it's because I believe that the best answer is yes.
That's great.
So it's a problem for me though, because people need to say no. Like, people have to make their own decisions, and they need to say no to me sometimes. But if nothing else, that opens up the conversation, right? Because then that lets me say why.
Right.
Because that doesn't make sense. Why are you saying no?
Yeah. Help me understand.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though, because we've as an organization read a lot, and we've seen it with a lot of our team, and myself included. Because I was very similar, and Paul was similar. Networking event, business meeting.
Yes.
Lunch and learn. Yes, we're going.
Yeah.
And opening up to that opportunity gave us the ability to like meet people, build relationships, and build a business.
Yes.
Now though, with family, people are like, "Hey, can you do this thing Tuesday night?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
I got focus right now. I got to really, I was saying to you earlier, my family is, my family time is precious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're 3 under 3.
Yeah.
So right now in my life, I got to say no to a lot of stuff so I can say yes to my family.
Yes.
And it seemed like,
but that's easier.
What's
I
that?
think it's easier now because you have a really good reason to say no. So when I have to say no to evening things, I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Like, my kids need me there. They have to eat.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like my job in our home is to feed people.
Yeah, it's kind of important detail.
It is.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So it's okay with me. It's okay with me to say no, and I feel like I understand it. So again, if I understand it, then it's okay.
No big deal.
Yeah.
I like that. So if Carinta understands, it's okay.
Yeah.
That almost is a good title for a book.
I agree.
Of course you do. So now that you've grown the business, so Global Carinta Service. Maybe you just give us a quick snapshot.
Sure. What we do.
Selfish promo.
Sure. Selfish promo. So I play with money.
That's awesome.
That's what I do. I buy and sell money. Picture like a pawn shop of money, because that's all I do. I buy someone's leftover euros, and then I resell it to somebody else who needs them.
Right.
I buy someone's leftover pounds, and then I resell it to someone who needs them. And so we basically offer like this percentage of services that a bank would normally offer. So we just do currency exchange. But because that's all we do, we can do it cheaper.
Right.
And better.
And name of the business?
Global Currency Services. Come visit me.
Website?
Global-currency.com.
Global-currency.com.
Yes.
And isn't there something about like being able to track dollar values and stuff?
Yes. So within the currency kind of service offerings that we have the travel money, which is what most people can relate to, because if you've ever traveled, you need money. And then we have our kind of commercial services that we offer. So anyone that's importing or exporting, we do wire payments for them. And then once they're into that kind of world, then they start looking at ways to try and minimize risk.
Leverage opportunity.
Exactly. So then we'll offer forward contracts. We'll do rate watching for you. So if you are selling shoes in your store and you kind of banked on US dollar for 120, then we'll watch that rate for you and let you know when it hits, so that you can buy your US dollars at that rate and make sure that your profit is exactly what you had anticipated it to be.
That's really neat. And especially with people doing high volume, 5 cents on the dollar can make a big difference.
Huge. 1 cent on a dollar can make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. That's neat. Okay, well, thank you for the selfish promo.
No problem.
So then you've grown this thing 17 years later.
Yes.
You started another one in Waterloo.
Yes. So I went into partnership with years ago. This is now 8 years ago. So I had a client come in and say, "Oh my gosh, I love your business. I think my wife would love to do what you're doing. Can you show her how to do it?" And so we went into partnership and we did just that. So it was neat because when you go into business, and I think anyone who's ever gone into business can attest to this, you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so it was...
I can definitely attest to this.
Right? So I got to do a do-over.
Yeah.
Like, I got to start with a clean slate and say, okay, we'll do this differently because it didn't work. And we'll do this differently because it didn't work.
New office setup, new city, new start.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the things that that you might have regretted or may have done differently, had a chance to redo, you can't redo, right? Like, you've already kind of set the foundation. So it's hard to go back and just erase something that you've put into place. So that was neat. That was neat to be able to kind of 8 years later say, clean slate, let's start again. Yeah.
And it went well.
And it went really well, yeah. They're loving the business. I think initially she was looking for a business to run for, you know, a few years and then sell off, because the couple that I was working with are serial entrepreneurs. So they've owned, I think, 15 different businesses over the years. And that was kind of their thing. They would get into it, grow it, sell it, and then move on. But she's liking it. She's liking it a lot. It's doing really well. So it's a neat business because everyone that we deal with is excited. They're either on their way to vacation, on their way back from vacation.
So they've got good stories, which is something I've noticed all your staff ask about.
Oh yeah, we're nosy.
But it's neat, right? Because then I get to share my experiences when I'm selling my pesos back.
Yes, exactly. And then on the business side, everyone that we deal with is rocking and rolling their own businesses. So that's an exciting, positive energy as well, right?
Yeah, cool.
Everyone likes doing what they're doing. So it's the complacent business owners that aren't going to bother finding me because they're not excited about their business and not really focused on how can I do this a little bit better or a little bit cheaper. So they're going to stay at the bank, and their energy will stay there too.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, neat.
Yeah.
So now we talked a little bit about before we started the recording about going into another location, starting up another business.
Right. So at the time that I did the Waterloo project, banking is an issue for our industry. So it's an interesting situation because as a business, you need a bank account.
Right. It's kind of funky. You need it.
You need it. And the things you don't think about, you have a debit machine, it needs to be able to empty into something, and that's a bank account. But some banks, actually most banks, have had difficulty banking our industry over the years. So there's different reasons. Some will say that it's competition. Some will say that it's the risk associated with money laundering. Some will say that there's some bad apples that kind of, were in the industry and kind of tainted it.
Right.
But whatever the reason is, banking has been a difficult service to acquire and then retain. So when the Waterloo project started, a year later, they got to experience firsthand what it was like to lose a bank account, and emotionally it gutted me. I was okay with my own risk. I was okay knowing that, the potential for losing bank access was there and that this is what it would mean for me, and I could, play out that scenario, because I think it's important to always play out the worst case scenario. It's a lot different though when I have emotionally the weight of somebody else's experience on me.
Yeah, big time.
So it wasn't even a year in when they lost their first set of bank accounts, and so that wasn't enough time to make back the money that they had invested in leasehold improvements and the startup phase. So it gutted me, and it really affected kind of what I did for the next few years, because I thought, I can't emotionally handle the fact that someone else might make a decision to go down this same path and they might experience financial loss.
Right.
That's not okay with me. So I was stagnant for a long time.
But they recovered from it.
They did, yeah,
okay,
they did.
Okay.
And
just so everybody knows,
yes,
it worked out.
It's great, yes, absolutely.
But some scar tissue along the way.
Scar tissue, yeah, and that's okay too, because I think you learn from it. But yeah, so then I found an alternative to banking, basically, for this industry. So there's companies that exist that provide banking solutions for the unbankable companies in the world. So medical marijuana is an industry that
banks don't want to touch.
Don't want to touch. Completely legal. Banks don't want to touch it. There's casinos that operate that are completely legal, but banks don't want to touch them. So sadly, currency exchanges are kind of in that same boat where, it's difficult to find a banking partner, but the business that we run is, registered and legal and regulated by the government.
Yeah,
exactly. So kind of, now that I mentally dealt with the fact that, okay, there is this other option, there's, a backup plan to if banking falls through.
Right.
Now there's room for growth. So
because you're mitigating your risk.
Exactly.
Which is great.
Yeah, so I won't be up late at night crying because someone else lost money on this brainiac idea. So since then, went into partnership with another location, this time in Mississauga, and it's a lot different now because now I don't have the cloud of threat that banking once kind of presented.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, we still have several banking partners, and those are important because although there's a backup plan, which is awesome, it lets me sleep, the banking structure is
pretty massive.
It is.
Yeah, the infrastructure
and it makes
is
things
huge.
easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's an easy way to do business, so that's preferred, of course. I'm going to keep those relationships strong, but there's a backup. There's a backup to my backup.
So you've grown, so now you're working with, many different people.
Yes.
Has there been any lessons learned around leadership as you grow this business and staff, and what have you learned that maybe you could go back and say to yourself 10 years ago that if you had known would have made things a little bit easier?
Yes. Can I go back 17 years?
17 years,
17
sure, as
years
many
ago,
years as you want.
and my lessons learned, how you treat people is everything. That's my lesson learned. So if I look back to the regrets that I've had, and there aren't a ton of them, the only ones that really sat with me for a long time was when I didn't treat someone with kindness and with sincerity and with who I am as a person. So if I just...
So what happened? Hit us up.
My first lesson was actually during startup. So in Guelph, I was getting quotes from different companies to do my leasehold improvements. And so I chose one option, which was my least expensive option because I was shopping for price. And when one of the other quotes came back and said, well, why didn't you choose us? I took that opportunity to be brutally honest.
Okay.
Too brutal. And too honest. Unnecessarily. Yeah. At that point, I could have just said, your quote was higher, and if I'm doing another project in the future, I'll keep you in mind because working with you is great, and let it die there. But instead, I went through and meticulously critiqued every every interaction with them, which was really not what they were asking for.
No.
And not how I would have wanted to be treated in that situation either.
Sure.
So that was my first lesson of, and then a week later, that gentleman's face was the front of the KW record. So all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, look who I did that to. Yeah. This is crazy. This could be huge. Yeah. Luckily it wasn't. I mean, as soon as I saw that and I was just like, okay, this is what you did, I groveled. I went back and I said, you know what? I was out of line. I was young. I made a silly decision that I shouldn't have, but I've learned from it.
Yeah, that's cool. And that even takes a lot of character to go out of your way
to apologize?
Yeah, but seriously, how do people just be like, oh, I hope I don't see him again?
No, because you're going to see them again.
For sure. Communities are small.
100%.
No matter how big they are.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Yeah. So, when I've been wrong, and I've been wrong, I need to go back and I need to make it right. And that's how I build all my relationships. Personal, business, doesn't matter. That's
cool. I think that's something that I need to take into consideration sometimes, because less often these days than years past, I'll get frustrated because I see things so clearly sometimes, but I'm not the best at communicating it, and then I have expectations that are really high or
based on those
clear ideas, but they're not necessarily clear when they come out of my mouth, or they're not necessarily written down. I usually jump the gun when it comes to like, hey, why isn't this happening the way it's supposed to happen?
Right.
And I gotta check that, just to kind of come back to what you're saying about, it's all about how you treat people.
Right.
So one last thing. I know we're going a little bit longer than I typically do, but
okay.
I think we could do this
I
for
can
an
do
hour.
this. Yeah, I've got time.
We gotta do another one, seriously.
Okay, sold.
17 years growing a business.
Yes.
I find in a lot of experience I've had over the last 5 years, I get questions like, are you building it to sell it?
No.
And, I'm going to get in this business, I'm going to grow for 5 years, and I'm going to get out. It's going to be great, I'm going to make a good amount of money. And there's this perception that there's overnight success. And there's this perception that building a business to sell is different than building a business to keep. So I was just curious about what you might say to those people that have that maybe, exit before they start mentality.
Right.
And I can do this in 5 years and be done mentality.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I find, this isn't answering your question, but I'm going to babble anyways. I find it difficult to connect to people that have the great get rich quick plan. I think because, as ironic as it is, the fact that I sell money, I have no interest in money. Like, that's not my motivator at all. So it was never my intent to grow it and sell it, because I think someone who's in it to grow it and sell it is just looking at the dollar figure of what they can do, rather than the experience. And I think there's a difference in the experience that a client is going to have dealing with someone who's in it for the money rather than in it because they love it.
Yeah.
So currency was not my dream. I didn't have a dream. There's no product or service that I am so committed to that I need to sell that was my dream, but people are my dream. So in this business, it works for me because I get to deal with a lot of them. If money was my thing, I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work for me. And I think the success you'll have is different. I think it's temporary. It's not based on relationships, because if you were in it, I think you have to look at it like a marriage. Like if I was looking to get married just to have kids, yeah, you'd get your kids, but you'd get nothing out of that union.
Yeah, straight up.
Right? So if you're in business to make money, yeah, you could probably make money.
Yeah. And
you could probably move on. But you wouldn't have the impact that means so much more to people who are in it for the people.
And that's staff, customers, partners, community stakeholders,
suppliers, everyone.
You name it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
That's deep thoughts with Carinta.
Deep thoughts with Carinta. So, last piece.
Yes.
This is the second last piece.
Liar.
Any shout outs that you want to give for people that have helped you grow?
Oh my gosh, so many. So many.
This is your Oscar.
I'm going to shout out to the whole city of Guelph. So I'm going to shout out to the city who proved the naysayers wrong.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then any followers or anybody you follow, authors, leaders, speakers, you think someone would be worth checking out?
So many, again.
One or two. Hit us with 5. I don't know, just name a couple.
You know what? It's not even a business book. I think he may have had a business slant, but the biggest influencing book I read is Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages, which...
We use that in Everybody Does a Profile here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Acts of service and words of affirmation are my 2.
That's you.
Two
okay.
top.
I'm quality time and acts of service.
Well, here we're doing some quality time.
There you go.
That's great.
Let me do something for you. Let's make it an act of service.
So what's the person's name again in the book?
Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman.
5 Love Languages.
5 Love Languages.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It applies to kids. It applies to business. It applies to everything.
Epic. Mm-hmm. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Okay. See you guys.